The IndyCar World Series with Husqvarna Forest and Garden Products. Firestone, the science of safety. And Valvoline Motor Oil.
Well, welcome to some very exciting racing indeed. IndyCar at its very best. It's the 11th round of 16, and so far we've seen some very exciting racing, and we're expecting to see that tonight as well. Well, the all-important tyre warming. We can tell you that the important battle at the top of the field, well, the man leading the championship, Jimmy Vasser, well, since winning the US 500, although he's got 102 points, he's faded away a little. He still leads from Alonso Jr. with 99, as you see there. But the fast-charging Gil de Ferran, the Brazilian, with 92, certainly the man to watch. And Michael Andretti, we saw his name appearing on the board there. He's had 4 out of the last 5 wins here, and he really is the king of this Toronto street circuit. What a circuit it is, too. 11 turning points and passing areas you see there in the green. A late braking point there at the end of the first straight past the checkered flag as the man in pole position, André Ribeiro from Sao Paulo in Brazil. In fact, the first 3 rows all on Firestone tyres, the first 3 on Honda engines, so there's that Honda Firestone combination again. So Ribeiro and Zanardi from Formula 3000 fame there on the front row. Brazil and Italy. 0.430 seconds before Fernandez and Scott Pruitt, Mexico and the United States of America. Greg Moore and Parker Johnson, the Honda test driver. 49 and 99 make up the 3rd row. Alonso Jr., he was a winner here in 88 and 90. Bobby Rahal wants to pile the points on. Will he today? Gil de Ferran, what a charger. Michael Andretti, what a street racer. That's row 5. Jimmy Vasser, he must be beginning to feel that it's falling away from him. Brian Herta, also from the United States of America. Row 6. Christian Fittipaldi, still in the chase, the Brazilian. Emerson Fittipaldi, well, Dad looking just behind Lad. Before, of course, we had the British driver. Then Bozell and Kronsno. The Swede, Stefan Johansson. Brazil's Roberto Moreno. Eddie Lawson, great on bikes. Scott Goodyear from Canada, alongside him. Richard Hearn. New boy. Juan Fangio II. 95 laps, and there you see 4 wins for Jimmy Vasser, all earlier on in the season. Alonso Jr. yet to get that win. He's the fastest of those guys in with a real chance of the championship. 7th on the grid, his best on a street circuit. And Gil de Ferran, the Brazilian there, he's piled on the points recently. 1 victory, 1 pole place, 5 top 5s and 8 top 10s. Well, Firestone and Honda have dominated this season, led 700 and odd laps out of just over 1,200. There you get a fine scene. And a fine scene in front of André Ribeiro at the moment, a clear track from the man from Sao Paulo. Ribeiro, very, very quick, 58.060. That's a speed of 110.516 mile an hour here. They have 3 warm-up laps. And then you've got 95 of the very best of IndyCars. Stay here on Autosport. The circuit's changed a little bit from last year. Michael Andretti, of course, the winner. Turns 1 and 3 are classic late braking ones. And Honda rumored to go into Formula 1 in 1998. And he came into Indy cars a couple of years ago, but by goodness, they're really starting to prove the point this year. The pits straight here provides an excellent viewing point. The weather good here. You can see slightly overcast. Temperature of track about 33. And no reports of any rain likely at the moment. Scott Pruitt with the very much Firestone back car there. Pruitt a little further back on the grid. He wanted to be on the front row, on the second. Well, not too bad, as they worm their way round. Molson, the sponsors of this Indy Toronto round in Ontario, Canada. Only a couple of years before, I was talking of Honda before, they'll have a circuit which they've helped to fund. As we go to our commentators, Danny Sullivan, but first Paul Page.
We'll keep an eye on that as we look back through the field. And yes, there you see one.
Yeah, it looked like Al Unser Jr. Boy, that's going to dash his hopes a little bit, but it looked like Al Jr. had his front wing knocked askew.
Boy, and take a look at the battle at the front of the field as already Zanardi makes his move on Ribeiro and gets past, picks up the lead of turn 3. Fernandez drops into third place. Then Greg Moore. Johnstone gets in trouble. Johnstone goes sideways on the circuit. Of course, being a road course, they'll keep it green flag if they can, yellow only in that area.
And that's Bobby Rahal's car. He looked like he just passed. I thought it was Scott Pruitt. He looked like he was slowing. Look at that gap behind Greg Moore that we see on the screen right there.
Well, we saw the spin by the first car, which looked to be Parker Johnstone, and it may have collected even more. We'll try and get information on that. Zanardi, then Ribeiro, and there's Al Unser Jr. heading into the pits, Gary.
This is something that the Penske team has rehearsed countless times. They have a very quick release on the nose. They may be able to change the nose faster than virtually any other team out here, but they're having problems. I don't know if it's damage related, but it'll be a fresh nose as the precious seconds tick by for Al Unser Jr., and that championship hope is suffering right now. Jack?
Problems as well for two key point contenders. You're looking at Scott Pruitt. He had a tire go down. If we can turn the camera to the other side, you can also see Jill DeFerrin. He's being serviced. He came in without a nose as well, Paul Page.
Yeah, he came in totally without a nose, so something happened back there. Unfortunately, the nose is a pretty quick change on these machines.
Well, it is, as long as when that nose got knocked off that it didn't screw up some of those screw holes and they can't get it back in. But what this really does is Jimmy Vassar's championship hopes really just came alive here with two of his big contenders getting knocked out.
Yep, took a big jump forward. Not necessarily out, but certainly slowed down. Michael Andretti, there's where Parker Johnstone got in trouble. And then the rest of the field bottled behind him. Looked like Michael just lost grip.
Well, or lost grip or got in there a little too late and Parker braked a little early. Oh, there's Jeff Krosnoff trying to pass on Raul Boesel. You see how tight it is there, but what that also did is it took the first 4 cars, it gave them a gap on the field.
And the first 5 are Zanardi, Ribeiro, Fernandez, Greg Moore, and Bobby Rahal. You're absolutely right. Rahal came forward as a result of those confrontations, but he has been able to close up to that gap. And since, well, there's the gap, and then Rahal, probably 150 yards back.
But interesting, see right there in front, that's Al Unser Jr. He's in danger of losing maybe another lap here. That's the leader in the red car right behind him, right there. Showing.
There are your front 4s. They all run right together, coming up behind Little Al, heading for turn 3, key passing area.
He doesn't like to give up that lap. That could be critical.
Parker Johnstone either sideways again or still sideways. Full course yellow as they split to come around him. Yellow flags flying everywhere. The course marshals want to get him slowed down before this situation, as he's right in the center of the racetrack.
And boy, did that really hurt Al Unser Jr., because if he had not gotten past right then, he would have had a chance to go back, tag onto the back of the field, and wouldn't have lost that lap to the leader.
With concrete walls on both sides, there's a very precarious position for the Motorola car of Parker Johnstone as they pull it back to get it away from the edge of the racetrack. Zanardi leads. 3 laps are complete. We're full course yellow.
To the IndyCar World Series live with
Husqvarna Forest and Garden Products.
And you're back, and it's live, and it was very, very exciting indeed, wasn't it? The start of race 11, the Molson Indy in Toronto. We saw Alonso Jr. having a problem. He had to stop. Nose cone off on the Penske Mercedes. Scott Pruitt had a flat tyre with the Lola. It was a problem for him. And the hard-charging Gilles de Ferran, also a problem. He came in without a nose on the Reynard Honda. But when the yellow flag went out, the race order was Zanardi, who was on the front row. He'd actually got past poleman Andre Ribeiro. And then we had in third place Adrian Fernandez, then Greg Moore and Bobby Rahal. But certainly Alonso Jr.'s championship hopes and Gilles de Ferran's championship hopes going a little bit at the moment. Jimmy Vass is up there as well. And we can go straight back to live action with Danny Sullivan and first Paul Page.
Confrontation involving Parker Johnstone when he lost it in front of Michael Andretti, and as the rest of the field came through, a couple of guys bounced off of one another. We also saw Paul Tracy have his problems.
Yeah, but he moved up from 13th where he started to 6th.
So Paul Tracy, who has been hot here most of the weekend, hometown crowd of course, looked terrific today. He got bottled up on the start, but boy, he made a good move on it.
Whoa, that was close. Did you see how close he was under Zanardi's? And I think he lost a little ground. See how he dropped away? He obviously had to pull in real hard on the brakes.
On board Bobby Rahall's Miller car, sitting back, 5th place, just behind Greg Moore. The field, of course, able to bunch up on that yellow, and they're all on top of one another again.
What you got to be careful of now is if he starts protecting that position, they'll lose touch with Zanardi, give him a clear field. Look how they're bunched up back there. Interesting situation there, though, at second place. Those are teammates. Ribeiro and then Fernandez, both out of Steve Horn's Tasman team. Nearly identical cars. Key difference being that Ribeiro has won twice, and Fernandez has yet to win. So do they let each other alone? I don't think so. I never had those team orders in any of the teams I drove with 2 cars, especially with a guy that's never won and one that wants to post another victory this year. Looking back to Bobby Rahal as Paul Tracy continues to work on him. Let's go to Gary.
Paul, we mentioned the crews watch the big screens. Doug Peterson, one of the owners for Parker Johnstone. What were your thoughts when you saw your driver setting sideways?
I just hope that nobody's going to hit him. He was broadside in the middle of the track. It was a pretty frightening moment. But apparently the car's okay. He'd radioed in and said the car's okay. He just got bumped at the start and spun. Simple as that. Thanks, Doc. Sure, thank you.
All right, so there's the situation with Parker Johnstone. Michael Andretti, you're on board with him now. He sits in 7th place. That's Paul Tracy just ahead. One of them is this car, Michael Andretti, so we'll open that and listen. Well, there's the interval now. So you've got an idea of how far ahead Zanardi's able to pull. There he is as he's getting ready to head into turn 3. Through 3. Target car comes off the corner, and it seems like Ribeiro's catching just a bit. A little bit, but he lost so much in that restart just on that one corner, and it's very difficult. He's not only got to try to drive ahead and look at the car, but he's also got to be watching his mirrors and looking after that teammate. Ribeiro was almost 2 seconds behind the leader, 1.9 as they came across the line, so we'll keep track of that. Next point of measurement will be back at the start-finish line again. And here's where we'll get our update. So it stays the same. Ribeiro not able to make up on that lap. A lot of hope rides with Greg Moore. Of course, another Canadian yet to win his first race. Was very powerful in Indy Lights here last year as he took the championship in that series. And he definitely feels like this could be his day. Certainly the team does.
Well, I talked to him earlier today, and he really feels like it's strong. I talked with the team last night. They certainly feel that they've got as good a chance. He had a little bit of a mishap in qualifying yesterday when he jumped up to third. He dropped to fifth because he missed the last 10 minutes, but he's very confident. What's happened right now, Paul, is everybody got it through the first couple of laps, sorted themselves out, and now they're settling down into the race.
Fangio spins it. Now he's going counter course, trying to find a place where he can turn around. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. So Fangio just lost the back end, just got off at 3, but there is a rise there.
It is a rise, but he just got sideways. Did a very good job right there of just backing up in the middle of the road, not trying to correct it. And then what you tried to see was he was spinning the car around because it's very narrow down there, lighten up the back wheels and spinning.
And in fact, right behind him was his teammate, P.J. Jones, Gary.
Yeah, and we have a radio report, and we're not sure from which one of those cars it came that he had no brakes. So definitely one of those guys in deep trouble. I don't know if it happened to be Juan or if it was PJ.
Well, I don't think it was Juan because his spin came after the corner. I mean, he was well through the braking. He was on the part where he's standing on the gas coming off the corner. I think he got it sideways and just lit it up and spun.
Well, here comes Fangio in, though, so maybe, in fact, it was him. And he found out he didn't have brakes after he came through the corner.
Or possibly he just got in so deep that he was just scrambling trying to save the car.
11 laps of the scheduled 95-lap distance here. An 11-turn, 1.78 miles around on this road course at Exhibition Place. Gary Gerald, can you update us on Fangio?
Yeah, no forward drive gear. Something in the drivetrain is broken. That's why he's coasted to a stop here at the pit entrance.
And that explains it, doesn't it, Danny?
That does. I think that's probably what might have happened when he was spinning the car around as well.
Watching the target car of Alex Zanardi. One race this year, he comes home as the winner, and that, of course, was at Portland. Great celebration after that. Let's go to Robbie Gordon, who sits back in 10th position right now. We're just going to ride and listen.
Sitting out there are actually the camera that they're mounted in there. The little cameras are mounted inside there. That's what we were just viewing from the shot before.
On the right side is the camera. On the left side is the transmitter. Gordon started 18th up to 10th. So at 12 laps complete, Alex Zanardi, who jumped into the lead on the start around Andre Ribeiro, continues the lead. No change at the top of the order.
Back to the IndyCar Series, live with Valvoline Motor Oil.
We've already seen championship chasers Alonso Jr. and Scott Pruitt and Gilles de Ferran have problems, but at the moment it's Zanardi from Ribeiro, from Fernandez, from Moore, from Bobby Ray Hall and Tracy, with Michael Andretti, 4 times winner of this event. He's coming up with the field now in 7th place. Incidentally, previous world champion at this level, Gilles Villeneuve, problems there over scrutineering. We'll let you know what happens to the Grand Prix winner as it stands at the moment on Eurosport as soon as we can. Very shortly we'll be joining our commentary team out in America, but it's been a really exciting race so far. Alonso Jr. and Scott Pruitt came in with nose and tyre problems. Gilles de Ferran with a problem too, but here's Danny and Paul.
Back at the Molson Indy, we are in Toronto at Exhibition Place and riding with Michael Andretti. That's Paul Tracy just ahead. Michael currently occupies 7th position.
Well, and you saw that white puff of smoke. We've been following this for a couple laps, and he does it a couple places, but there particularly every time there's a crown in the road, gets in there, gets that right front wheel a little light, but that'll eventually create a handling problem because that tire will get awful square on him.
of times under shifting, I've seen a puff at the back of the car. And I wonder if I'm seeing things or if something's going on there. Look down from the Honda Helicam as they make the turn off of Lakeshore Boulevard here and back in through the exhibition place. And I think Michael's making up some distance.
He is certainly right on him. I think you're going to have to get a little bit closer than that, or quite a bit closer, to make an attempt to pass. Let's see if he locks up here again. This is the corner where we've had the problems. Watch there. Nope. That's the first time in about 4 laps that he had locked up.
Yeah, but you know what he did? He didn't make a sharp turn into the corner.
He rolled in.
Took more of an arc into the corner that time, I think, because Michael's there. Michael lets him know he's there. Same thing he did last time. Puff there, though.
Yep. This is a really tough course when it comes to passing. You've got to be real sure, and you've got to have a clean shot when you go in there. Because if anything goes wrong, you bang with the other guy, you knock a wheel out of line or break a nose, your day's done.
Everything the same at the front of the field as Zanardi leads it. This battle for second place between teammates Ribeiro and Fernandez. Coverage, of course, here in Ontario comes from CBC Television. And they have really outfitted this place with plenty of cameras to give you the coverage.
It looks to me a little bit like Ribeiro is possibly holding Fernandez up.
We saw Fangio have his problems earlier. Gary, do we know clearly now more about them?
Yeah, well, the team is persisting in trying to track down the problem. It's a linkage problem. They have got all kinds of equipment at the back of the car, and they're going to work on it. He stays in the cockpit, hoping that he can get out and still get some more development time with that Toyota program for Dan Gurney. But right now, it's pretty bleak.
So that battle is broken off there at the front of the field again. They're all waiting station on one another. Let's go back to 17th place. This is Scott Pruitt, who I think they'd hoped he'd be a little further up. We've also turned on his two-way radio. That's Raul Boisel just ahead of him.
Update you on Scott Pruitt. Remember, he was on pit road with a flat. He did not cut the tire. Playing air there, he's talking about the understeer that the car has developed. It means it wants to push out to the wall. He did not cut a tire, guys. What happened is when he was involved in that altercation, when everybody came together, they came up against some carbon fiber from another car and sheared the valve stem off, so the tire immediately deflated. That's a tough way to lose air.
For Pat Patrick's team. Well, there's a variation in lines.
Well, I think he was taking a look inside to see if he could dive under. You kind of accelerate and then go on the brakes there, but look how much ground he lost. And Raul Boisel is a tough guy to pass anyway, but he's not going to just give you the corner like that.
You see there where that one little look inside cost him a great deal for the next couple of corners. Second, third, fourth. Ribeiro, Fernandez, Moore.
See, I think Ribeiro's holding him up a little bit. Zanardi's pulling away.
Look at Greg Moore.
But Greg Moore has come way down. He's caught him. Look how close Fernandez. This is the battle right here.
And boy, it's tight right now. two nearly identical race cars, and then Greg Moore charging in just behind. Gary Gerald?
Juan Fangio now out of the car. It turns out it may have been clutch. Tell us about the track conditions before you encountered your problem.
Well, it's fine. I mean, for me, it was better because in qualifying, I didn't have the chance to run at all on Friday, and on qualifying on Saturday, it was very slippery for myself. So today it was quite good, and the car feel all right. It was not great, but it feel all right.
Making progress with this team. Thank you, Juan.
Yes, getting better. So we have to keep working and trying to improve in every race.
Paul?
There's the leader. We'll see an interval now. Back to second place. There's Ribeiro. There's Fernandez. Greg Moore again looking for some clean air, too.
I'm not sure I understand entirely. It's a little shorter that way, but he's got to dive back out there. I'd want to get behind Fernandez and get a little pull down there. He's got that Honda power. And of course, Greg Moore in the Mercedes, I'd like to get that yank down the straightaway and suck me down there. Well,
is there maybe another issue? It's a hot day here. The sun is shining. In fact, we don't have a cloud cover overhead right now. Could he be facing an overheating problem, trying to get air through the coolers or anything like that?
I wouldn't have thought so. It's been hot the last 2 days. They've got that down pretty pat. I don't think so.
So two Hondas and then a Mercedes. Ribeiro, Fernandez, and then Greg Moore. As they go back now, Paul Tracy still trying to work on Bobby Rahal. There's the Miller car, Bobby Rahal, in 5th place.
Of course, what they're all hoping is that Ribeiro will hold them up because they know they're all closing on that group in front of them, and they need a little bit of help to close that gap.
So the battle for second continues, and it is almost 4 seconds behind Alex Zanardi. 22 laps complete. Pit stop should be very soon. We'll be back after these messages in a word.
25 laps completed then, and still here at the Molson Indy, it's Zanardi from Ribeiro, Fernandez and Moore, but those three locked in a battle royal now, and that may allow Zanardi to get away a little bit. Some British news: Mark Blundell, who started 16th on the grid, he's now up to 13th place, and Jimmy Vasser, who leads this championship, could have a smile on his face after today's race. He's in 9th place at the moment, and remember that Gilles de Ferran had a problem really early on, as did Alonso Jr., and they're the nearest competitors that can catch him in the overall championship. But really at the front now, Zanardi trying to pull away. He'd opened the gap to about 5 seconds, but Ribeiro and Fernandez, who are teammates in the Lola camp, well, they're battling, and that's allowed Greg Moore to get nearer to them, and all the time Zanardi can try and eke out just that little bit bigger of a lead. But it is going to be a very exciting, some 70 laps still to go. Here's Danny and Paul.
Jack? Well, Gary, for Alex Zanardi, your current leader, the radio chatter back and forth knows full well that the window is open for pit stops. They want to go to approximately lap 35. Their main concern right now, they want Zanardi to back off a little bit, not get into too much heated race traffic racing. They feel like he can get back in a sequential order during the pit stop, so they're counseling right now about maybe backing off just a bit till the pit stop.
Well, we've been watching the front of the field as they all come around the 15 car, which is Scott Goodyear, his first race back since his accident in Rio. Now, why is the front end closed up the way they are? Well, they all ran into an impediment. The first to do that, of course, was Zanardi, and the impediment was Hiro Matsushita, who not only was in front of the leaders, but he got into a little bit of trouble, actually right in front of the leader of the race. He got the car sideways, and in doing so, once he got it sideways, he caught it, kept it off the wall, but Zanardi was right there behind him. There's that battle for second place. We can go back and take a look at that when Hiro bottled up the field. Look at that. Whoa.
Well, I think one thing else that's happened here is I believe that Ribeiro's not on the pace that some of the other cars want to run, and he's really not going fast enough. Everybody's bunched up behind him, and we're also seeing everybody get in traffic. Those things combined, it's always easier for the leader to get through, but when you're trying to protect the position and dive through traffic, it's hard.
So there's the target car, Roberto Moreno, number 4. Or excuse me, Alex Zanardi. We were looking at Roberto Moreno, had him on the mind.
He just passed him.
Yeah. Roberto Moreno is actually running back in 9th 19th place as we look over at the EDS computer, which keeps track of the cars here. A full 3-second lead over second place. Ribeiro. Here comes Ribeiro. He comes around Moreno. Fernandez has dropped back just a bit.
Again, Paul, I think that's more due to traffic than anything else. You can gain or lose that gap so fast just depending on where you pick a slower car and where you get past him. If you're held up for 2 corners, you're going to lose some ground. If you catch him on a straightaway.
This is on board 7th place Michael Andretti as he was pursuing Paul Tracy. This is on the pit straight heading for that first turn.
Got it out there a little wide, little traction problem, but he wanted to protect that position. But look at Tracy.
You get wide.
Yeah, you get wide.
Tracy and forget it.
That's great racing, though, in there. And that's what the drivers wanted, was another spot around here to pass. And they look like they've got it with that increased length on that front straightaway.
The yellow and black car you get a glimpse of, that's Richie Hearn back on board Michael. For his first stop as the stops now come underway, and we're going to take a look at it from this point of view.
Okay, hits the mark, the guy goes in, that's the air jack in his left hand. Fueler's going in the side, the guys are changing the front tires up there. Robbie's talking to Derek Walker, resetting his fuel meter. Down it comes. That water you saw was just in case there was any extra fuel out there. They wanted to get that away so it didn't cause a fire, and away he goes.
And the other hose on top just forward of the air jack hose is the vent. As soon as they see fuel hit up there, fueling's done. What I think is fascinating is they can generally change 4 tires faster than they can refuel the car.
Well, of course, that's to do with the way they set the tank, because it's gravity fed, and they can't set it too high to make it go in faster, so the fuel flows slower than they can do the tires.
It's also something to see the IndyCar officials out when they're first setting up the pits at any one of the IndyCar racing events, measuring those tanks, measuring the angles, because everything has to be identical. They don't want you to get 1 second advantage anywhere.
I got to tell you, I used to sit in that cockpit going, come on, why are these guys taking so long? And then I sat out one time. I was out of the race early and sat in Rick Mears' pit while they did a pit stop, and I couldn't believe how fast they were doing everything.
Look how close. Ribeiro is now on Zanardi. Is at the front of the field still, but the gap has closed down to 1.5 seconds. We'll be back right after
this. To the IndyCar World Series, live with
Husqvarna Forest and Garden Products.
So 33 laps gone of 95 and all the pit stops just starting, so we're likely to have some extremely exciting action. Still Zanardi from Ribeiro, from Fernandez, from Moore. We noticed Mark Blundell's already made his pit stop. He's dropped back to 19th place. Gilles de Ferran a couple of laps down, so Al Unser Jr. But the man leading the championship, Jimmy Vasser, is in 9th place as I speak. Michael Andretti, who can still really turn it on the street circuits. He won 4 out of 5 of the Torontos he's entered. Well, he's up there in 7th place trying to make pace on Paul Tracy. Bobby Rahals just a little bit adrift of Greg Moore, but Moore, Fernandez and Ribeiro are engaged in the battle, but Alex Zanardi isn't yet completely away from them. We're going straight back now to the circuit and Danny Sullivan, but first Paul Page.
PJ, of course, drives for Dan Gurney's All-American Racing and Toyota Power. They have been working with that engine. A lot of new pieces this weekend. Got them a little more horsepower, a little more RPMs. The team definitely working on their development, and in the hands of guys like PJ and Krosnoff, Fangio, once they get the power, look out.
Something else that happens here with the drivers, Paul, is when you're running through traffic, if you can, you try to pick your spot where to pass and close the guy in, lock him in behind the slower car so you can pull away in a couple of corners. You're always trying to find a way to play the traffic to your advantage and the other guy's disadvantage.
Over on the pit straight, they are laid out for Ribeiro right now. They also are laid out for Fernandez. They're the teams waiting for their cars to arrive. That's the Tasman team laid out there.
You don't think there's going to be any inter-team competition there, do you?
No, no problem. Yeah, right.
With those guys running as close as they are, which, by the way, those mechanics are watching on the screen. Look at this. They're coming in. They couldn't be any closer.
So both of them head in together, and Gary Gerald's there.
Well, this is exciting. Team pride on the line. Who's going to get the quickest service? Ribeiro, and behind him, Fernandez. They're separated by about 1 pit length here. That'll be a little bit of an advantage for Adrian if he gets down off the jacks quickly. Remember the 60-mile limit. Fernandez is moving first. Ribeiro still in front. They can't get the fuel in the car.
He was trying the whole pit stop to get that fuel hose in it. I don't think he's got any fuel on board yet.
And they have to manually get the car back up. They've moved the car so that the hose can get a clean connection. They still haven't got it in. Oh, what heartbreak for Andre Ribeiro.
They were stretching the hose too far to make the interlock earlier. Now they've moved the car. You can see the refueler shaking his head. And finally, you see a little blurb of fuel at the top, and Ribeiro goes out.
Boy, that fueler is upset because he knows he just cost his driver a tremendous amount of time on the track.
Well, now wait a minute. In his defense, the first time when they hit in, he was sitting a little bit out. Driver?
Zanardi.
That's the driver.
Here's the leader in, Jack.
Alex Zanardi comes onto pit road, and he knows his crew watched that whole problem with Andre Ribeiro. Zanardi, on the other hand, hits his marks exactly. They have determined they will make no changes except add the fuel. In 12.8 seconds, the advantage for him, too, is the last pit. He didn't have to adhere to the 60-mile-an-hour speed limit. Now Jimmy Vasser comes in. He's complaining of grip problems. They're going to make an adjustment on the tire pressures for Jimmy Vasser. They feel like he's got to get some points, as you guys have said. And right now, they're still hunting for some of those single-digit points. Back to you.
Well, as Greg Moore came across the line, he was scored as the leader of the race. He's not yet made his pit stop, but he came out right behind Ribeiro. So next lap around, Ribeiro should pick up the lead.
Let me tell you, on that fueling situation, I've had the same problem here in Toronto where I got blocked. And what happened was that my crewman, John Haskett, actually pulled the tank all the way over to the car and fueled the car. So it helps to have a big refueler.
Was saying Ribeiro, thinking Zanardi. Nevertheless, it didn't happen. Moore stays out. The actual order on the course right now is Moore, Andretti, Zanardi, Perna, Jimmy Vasser, as they last cross the line.
Jimmy Vasser really has to take advantage today of Gilles de Ferran and Alan Jr. Both of them have to have trouble. They're way, way back in the field. This is his day to add some points to his total.
There's Greg Moore as he stays out in front. Has not yet pitted. Mercedes power on that car. Apparently getting a little further on the fuel tank as finally Greg Moore comes in and Jack Aruta's there to greet him.
And his entire team is awaiting his mark. Now, each team has a series of marks on their pit stall. It's the driver's responsibility to hit them exactly. He does. Goes up on the jacks. Now, this is a very calm pit stop. This crew is always very calm. It really reminds me of the type of demeanor that their driver, Greg Moore, has. Waiting for the fuel. You can hear him revving up the engine. And he's off and away very quickly as right in front of Greg Moore, Scott Pruitt's team begins to get ready to service the Patrick car.
Michael Andretti came in at the same time as Greg Moore. Moore was in and out in 14.9 seconds.
Boy, it was
so
a good
Alex Zanardi picks up the lead.
Good stop, but he lost that ground to Fernandez. That was the green and red car you just saw go by him. Of course, he's on cold tires, so you can't go as fast as somebody who's on hot tires.
So now everybody has made their first stop of the day. 39 laps are complete of the 95-lap distance, and Alex Zanardi is back in front. And at the Molson Indy.
Back to the IndyCar Series, live with Valvoline Motor Oil.
And Alex Zanardi still has the lead, although we've got a problem there, but that's not for Alex Zanardi. Bobby Rahal has got into second place. Zanardi has made his pit stop. Bobby Rahal hasn't. Adrian Fernandez still hasn't made his pit stop. 42 laps completed by them. Paul Tracy hasn't completed his yet, and Greg Moore has now gone into the pits. He briefly led, did Greg Moore, with the Reynard Mercedes Firestone, but now he's made his pit stop. And Jimmy Vasser is the championship leader. He's now up to 8th place, and Mark Blundell, who made his pit stop a bit earlier, has now moved back up to 14th. Juan Fangio out, Matsushita is also out, and as far as points are concerned, Gilles de Ferran is 2 laps down, and also Al Unser Jr. is a lap down. But back to Danny Sullivan and Paul Page.
Another man that figures in the fight is also Zanardi. He is up at the front of the field. Came in the pits in first place, went out in first. Rahal came in the pits in 5th and came out in 2nd. So he's the man that on the stops really made the best advantage. And Ribeiro had the worst part of it, came in 2nd and left the pits in 11th place.
Yeah, that fuel and stop really cost him big time. But Bobby Rahal is always good around these street circuits. He's smooth, he's fast, he knows how to drive them. He's won here before. He's always a factor on these type of circuits.
And of course, least we forget in the championship fight, 3rd place coming into this event in the fight was Gilles de Ferran, who had his problems early on and is no factor whatsoever. And that leaves us with looking at Jimmy Vasser, who sits in 8th place. He'll pick up a few points and probably will stay in the lead.
Well, if he scores those points, but on a day like today, when your 2 main rivals in the championship are in trouble, that's when you have to score big. You've got to get more than an 8th place. He needs to get up there in that top 6. He'd like to be in the top 4 or 5.
There's Parker Johnstone. They finally get his car back away from the course, and by getting him back there, it at least prevented the possibility of a full course yellow. So he is back in a safe position. His day is done. Paul Tracy battles 3rd place Fernandez. And we, of course, saw that disastrous stop by Andre Ribeiro. Gary Gerald, any more information on what happened?
Talked with the fueler Robin Fast, and he said it was the car being mispositioned, didn't hit the marks. He was in close to the wall. They had to reposition the rear end. The concern was, I wondered if they'd had a malfunction that might impact their 2nd and final scheduled pit stop. He said, no. It's a case if we get it on the mark, we'll be fine. But the 45 seconds in the pits cost him 9 positions, from 2nd for Ribeiro all the way down to 11th.
Yeah, and Danny, there you were. You weren't going to blame the driver, were you? Now we know where your background comes from.
Well, you know, what can I say? You know, it's a very fine line there with that. Whoa, there's Parker Johnstone's rear suspension.
Jackaroo?
What you're looking at, guys, is something that failed, 37 laps after the accident happened with Parker Johnstone. That suspension failure, that's what you've got to be worried about when you tap the wall or you spin. You see right here? And Parker is out of the car right here. And we're going to say real quick, boy, you thought you made it through unscathed, you were okay, but then this happened.
Well, we thought we did. We went a few laps down, which was a real shame because we got a lot of people from Motorola here, and the car was working real well.
What about the track conditions? You've been out there. How good are they? How much grip can you get on those concrete parts?
Well, you can right at the beginning when you've got full fuel and fresh tires, but within a few laps, you expect Dorothy Hamill to do a triple toe loop passing. It gets pretty slick, but unfortunately, the damage from the first lap contact finally failed after that pit stop. It's too bad. The guys worked real hard. We look forward to Michigan.
Michigan's next. Remember, he was fast there last year, Paul.
Well, here's some new information. The 11th place car, Andre Ribeiro, formerly the pole, formerly 2nd. They have laid out once again to bring Ribeiro in. So we'll watch for that car to head in. Gary Gerald, any idea why they're bringing him back in?
Only thing we heard was he wants new tires. I don't know if he's got a vibration. I don't know if he suspects one's going down, but they've got 4 fresh Firestones laid out. The crew waits for him, and here he comes around the curve. Things going from bad to worse for this guy who had such high hopes starting from the pole. We'll see if they can get that fueling device in cleanly. This time they do. It won't take very much fuel, of course, because he was just here. Service is complete, and there he goes in 10.5 seconds. Now that's more like it.
So freshly shot now, Andrew Ribeiro heads back into the fight, though the combination of pit stops has not helped his race at all. The leader is, of course, Alex Zanardi, possibly looking at win number 2 of the season and his career. Bobby Rahal is in second place. We look back through the field, and there is Rahal, right behind Eddie Lawson's Delco car. Then comes Adrian Fernandez. You see Ribeiro there. He, of course, is well behind the lead, but there is Paul Tracy, and he is trying to catch Fernandez. So that's the closest interval on the circuit right now. Greg Moore is just behind Tracy in 5th place.
And I'm not so sure whether Steve Horn's telling him to help out his teammate Fernandez. Ribeiro, of course, trying to get his tires up to temperature, having just come out, and he's carrying a little heavier fuel load than Paul Tracy, so he's going to be a little bit slower than he'd like to be.
Well, let's take a look at some positioning in the points fight. Jimmy Vasser in 8th position can earn a couple of points. Al Unser Jr. has no chance. Jill DeFerrin, no chance of earning points, and that, of course, the 25th in parentheses there, that's position on the track. His finishing position, he's already finished. Christian Fittipaldi, he's going to pick up some points in 9th place. Michael Andretti at the moment stands to take a big jump, and the biggest jump of all by Alex Zanardi, because with the 20 points due for the victory here, should he make it, that'll bring him right up in contest.
And if he keeps on pace, he does get 1 point for leading the most laps, which would make it 21. Everybody used to laugh at those 1 points, but they sure add up at the end of the season.
Now you look at the teams that really know how to take championships, like Newman Haas and Penske, all of them who have done well in the championship. They've paid very close attention to making sure they lead the most laps, pick up the pole whenever possible. I mean, to the point of valiant efforts to make either one of those single points. Because he is so far back on the order right now, 25th and a number of laps down.
And of course, Al Unser Jr. is in 18th. There's a lot of racing left to go. He only has to get to 12th to actually pick up 1 point. That's where the points start. They go from 1st through 12th. And, you know, stranger things have happened.
The first 10 are all together on the leader lap, and then all the way down through Stefan Johansson. DeFerrin, we mentioned he was on. He's off, but he's going to get back on. They've got a little shortcut. He can hang a right here. This is at the end of turn 1, right underneath the Princess Gate.
Oh, did he stall it there?
Yeah,
or he's trying for reverse?
Here's how I got there.
Oh.
Well, go for that exit road, pal.
Yeah. And then he got in there. He still was going too fast. Bumped that. Might have damaged that nose. You hit that tires like that, but...
Yeah, they want to get him around, try and get him back into the fight so he falls further behind. Gary Gerald?
Down here with Andre Ribeiro's crew, and now we know what happened with the tires. Take a look at this, Paul. Here's a classic flat spot. They said send to Akron, but look at all the rubber that was rubbed off when he had to lock up the brakes. That's why he said he had to have new tires. Came in and got the new skins and was gone.
Here's Michael Andretti's move just a moment ago. Gave a little punt to Roberto Moreno. Moreno looks like, who did that? Fortunately, both of them were able to continue on. Leading up to today, Zanardi has led 261 laps in the last 5 races. He leads still today after 50 laps. We'll be back after these messages and a word from our ABC stations.
while we're watching Michael Andretti for a moment, let me tell you that the Villeneuve has flown out by helicopter from a week's holiday before Benetton had even lodged their protest, which they put in after Villeneuve had won at the British Grand Prix today. The protest was declared to have failed in a statement from the race stewards issued more than 3 hours after the race, but Benetton then announced that they had lodged notice of their intention to appeal against the decision within the next week. And that means that today's race result, which had Villeneuve first in the British Grand Prix, remains unofficial pending the outcome of the appeal. You heard it first on Eurosport. Well, let's pick up on the action now. Still Alex Zanardi. He'd opened the gap up to about 7 seconds. Zanardi, who benefited certainly when the man who was in pole position, Andre Ribeiro, had an absolutely awful pit stop earlier on, costing him 45 seconds and more importantly 9 places. Bobby Rahal in second place at the moment, but as the race gets on to lap 52 of 95 around this 1.78 mile circuit, it really is that car in the front who's trying to get away, and Zanardi, who came into the pits, had to regain first position after Greg Moore himself had pitted more briefly in the lead. And the man now in 6th position, just to way back up your picture, is Michael Andretti, who could certainly get a bag full of points for this one. But the leader, car number 4, and that is Alex Zanardi with the Targa Reynard Honda. He was just a shade off pole position pace of Andre Ribeiro, but the Italians now making it count where it matters. And the gang behind, well, they're battling it out, and that's allowing him again a little bit of an advantage, because if you held up your history, and now in car we go, and a real opportunity to get round this circuit. It's got 11 overtaking points on it, and this is Bobby Rahal. We're with getting clean onto the apex and back out with that battle. Rahal still in 2nd place, but Zanardi still the leader. Fernandez, what a good race he's having, yet to win in this year's IndyCar Series. This is 11 of 16 rounds, and that looks to be somewhat of a leisurely situation in the pits there. No threat from that one. And Fernandez chasing after Bobby Rahal. Some 41 laps remaining. And we can go back over to get those exciting moments from Paul Page and Danny Sullivan.
He is 6th place, and on the past few moments he has been complaining of understeer on the two-way radio in conversations with his engineer Lee White in the pits.
Well, you see how rough that track is with his hands darting around like that, bouncing around. That's one of the smoother sections there. I also think earlier when he did that little love tap on Roberto Moreno, he damaged the left front wing slightly. I saw it on a head-on shot, and that might be adding to that understeer.
Michael has elected to keep the car out and not make a change, but they have been discussing more. He spun it completely, got it going again. Delco car is Eddie Lawson coming up behind, driving for Rick Gallis. Watch the blue car.
Got in there hot. Locked up those rears, spun around. Whoa! I don't know if that did any damage. Those tires, they look pretty soft, but wing looks okay right there. I don't see any real damage, so he should be okay.
Yeah, but like you said a number of times, though, Danny, it's a sport where thousandths of an inch makes a lot of difference. That wing could have gotten jolted.
That's right, but as we saw even Greg Moore yesterday in qualifying, banged the wall hard enough to break a rear toe link, and he kept going a lap and was almost as fast as when it was normal. I'm not so sure he's that affected by it.
Well, Alex Zanardi leads it. Richie Hearn, of course, started well in the back as he comes back his first visit with IndyCar since run at Long Beach, and he's had some problems earlier this week and today, Gary.
Paul, he had a big test crash early in the week. I know you were very, very sore. How tough has it been for you today?
Well, I probably shouldn't even have run, but I thought maybe I could make it through. But yeah, I was okay for about the first, first 30 laps, and then my neck is just so, my neck and my back is so sore. I just can't even really hold on to the steering wheel, and I'm just in the way out there. So, instead of just doing that, I just decided to come in.
A former Atlantic winner here, out of it because of the problems with the neck and shoulders, Paul.
Driving for John Della Penna. Richie Hearn, we hope that he feels better very quickly. He's fun to watch. Zanardi, 57 laps complete. And there's Ray Hall, your second place car. Fernandez, and Emerson Fittipaldi, who's not in the top order, and there's Tracy. And here comes Ribeiro trying to get his way back up through this field. Get back on that lead lap.
But Paul Tracy's still trying to get around him. Remember, he came out of the pits in front of him. He still hasn't found a way. And, of course, his teammate Fernandez is pulling away. I got to believe that Paul Tracy's a little bit frustrated by that.
Let's go back to Michael. Sixth place. And will again open his radio.
Jimmy Vasser does that as well. Seems to come up when he gets to the corner, though.
There's Vasser. And what they were talking about was Brian Herta, who's just behind Michael. 1 second back. 8th place, Jimmy Vasser.
Of course, there's a little rise there, so he comes up to look over the front of the car a little bit, see exactly where he is. So he goes down when he goes into that braking area. Just ever so slightly.
Nobody does it quite like Michael.
Of course, I'm sitting up here analyzing. I'd hate to think what I look like in there bouncing around.
You had very wide eyes when we look at you head on. Paul Tracy, as he finally gets his way around Henry Ribeiro. But it took this just before.
He can't enjoy that after that. That's exactly when you flat spot a tire like that, lock it up that hard. That's what. Oh, there's Michael. He's off.
So the handling problem, we think, induced by a problem with the front wing.
See the right front tire? Look at those black marks. That's where he's locked up and flat spotted that tire right there. See how those flat spots on there? That'll make the tire square. That's what Andre Ribeiro had to make a pit stop for it with that big spot. That's just what, and we saw Paul Tracy do that just before we turned to this shot.
And with respect to Michael, we won't open the radio now. I'll tell you what, Michael is one of the pleasant ones to listen to. He's really well controlled on the radio.
Was that in reference to Michael, or was that in for our fans out there that didn't necessarily want to hear that language?
A little of both. Though Michael does not. I mean, that's not really in his nature. There's Mario, the Don of the family, the senior Andretti.
Greg Moore getting by right there.
Mario is able to watch as Michael finally gets going.
Oh, he's got that locked up a long time. Then the back. Then he's trying to keep it going. going, but he was more concerned with getting it stopped. That's why he stalled the car.
Yeah, but what got him to lock that far back?
Well, what happens, that's pretty late into the corner. I got to tell you, if he didn't get on the brakes until then, what the situation is over there on that side, it's very rough. There's some bumps down in there, and if it gets a little bit light going in there, one of the tires comes up, and he's in there deep, you lock it up.
In fact, you can see a flat spot on the right front as he comes into the corner, right after he hits the brakes the first time.
Oh, yeah, he was in there deep. He was in there whoa.
I'll just park right here. So Michael Andretti takes a big spin and drops down to 14th place in doing so, while Alex Zanardi in the target car continues to lead. 61 laps of 95 done.
So the leader still out there, Alex Zanardi, but in the last couple of laps, Bobby Rahal on a charge because he reduced what was a 7-second lead down to 3.8 seconds, and we've got him on the watch again, so we'll see if that gap is still reducing. Alex Zanardi looking for victory here, but Bobby Rahal, a very, very seasoned campaigner, getting after him, and the perception of pressure will certainly be falling on Alex Zanardi. Well, we said earlier that Michael Andretti could really enhance his points. Well, that off before and flat spotting the tyres really means that Jimmy Vasser can get the smile going a little bit more even now, because with Alonso Jr. way back, with already Gilles de Ferran some 3 or 4 laps back, it means that Jimmy Vasser is certainly going to increase his points lead in this 16-round championship. But the man at the moment, with all attention on him, is certainly going to be Zanardi, because Bobby Rahal on a charge, and we're in car again now. And down that pit straight to this right-hander, a very tight right-hander indeed. It's a good late braking point if you can get close enough, but not for our Charger at the moment. So Bobby Rahal on the chase of Alex Zanardi, and you're on board with him. The car almost bogging down into that corner then. Having to work very, very hard indeed. And the Marlboro cars in the pits. Haven't got to watch on this stop, I'm afraid. But out we go with Alonso Jr. But the early problem he had when his nose cone was departed geometrically from the car, well, that really put him out of contention. But he's climbing up through the field, as is Mark Blundell. He's now in 11th, and we're back to Danny and Paul.
Back at the Molson Indy, nothing's changed in the order. Alex Zanardi is a full 6 seconds ahead of second place Bobby Rahal, way down that straightaway. Here comes Bobby. Adrian Fernandez sits back in third place. There he is. Paul Tracy is the next in the actual order, and then Greg Moore. Those are your top 5. And this little action, Robbie Gordon, Scott Goodyear, who is driving still with a special seat. I mean, he's back racing, but they have some very special foam in his seat. His back, remember, he just shattered his back in a crash in practice for the race in Rio. This is his first one back, but still, he's being very protective.
He is being protective, but he has been driving. He raced against us at Le Mans. He drove for Porsche over there, and they finished third. So I don't know, and he did some 24-hour tests prior to that. So he's been getting some seat time.
Bobby Rahal. Gary Gerald.
Paul Tracy's in for what should be his final service. Chuck Sprague said we'll make no changes on the car. The man who had a third place at Milwaukee, his best finish this year, a Penske team that has struggled, has gone 2 decades since it's been this far into the season without a win, just under 13 seconds.
Oh, and watch your speed limit through here. They've been watching that very carefully. P.J. Jones felt that sting. They black flagged him once for breaking the pit speed limit, 60 miles an hour. On the way out from the black flag, he broke the pit speed limit, 60 miles an hour, brought him in again. Now here comes Zanardi as he comes down into the pits, and he makes his second and final stop of the day. Jack Arute waits for him all the way down at the far end.
And Paul, this afternoon, Alex Zanardi is missing a critical member of his team, Rob Hill, who is resting in the hospital after having major medical problems earlier in the week. It doesn't seem to affect the crew right now, though. They go to work. They're going to change all 4 tires. That's a normal, standard procedure here. This, as we said, should be the final stop of the afternoon for your leader, Alex Zanardi. Now he's put the car back into first gear. They're waiting. They want to make sure they've got enough fuel. It took a long time for the fuel to come in, and I did not see any fuel come out of the vent hose. 18.2 seconds. That's a long stop, guys.
Yeah, Jack, we need to check into that because they were shaking the vent hose as well. I didn't see any either. And now they're reporting that Zanardi had a pit speed violation coming into the pits. He came in at 76 miles an hour, and that means a black flag. Oh, boy.
That's a bad way to throw it away. But you know, the part that amazes me is that all these cars are outfitted with a control that won't let the car go over 60 miles an hour if they hold the button down.
So that may give the race to this man, Bobby Rahal, Jack Arute.
Well, Bobby Rahal comes onto pit road. Remember, guys, he won the first race here at Toronto, and he is playing that cat and mouse type game. His crew goes to work. Again, it's most important to get the full load of fuel necessary. He is off and away in a very quick stop in 12.7 seconds, and Bobby Rahal can really sense right now that he might be able to overtake Alex Zanardi, because remember, Zanardi's got to come in for a stop and go.
And that's compared, of course, to the 18.2 for Zanardi plus the stop and go.
And not only that, Bobby was only 6 seconds behind, so he would have made that up roughly just in the pit stop, because he was 6 seconds quicker than Zanardi.
So there's the Zanardi car. We expect a black flag for that car any time now, though that has not been officially confirmed out. And here comes the man who picked up the lead of the race, Adrian Fernandez. And Fernandez comes in for his stop.
Fernandez right here on the targets perfectly, watching the refueling process, the tire changing process, no front wing changes, holding him. Oh, he engaged in gears. Well, we got him at 12 seconds flat on my clock, Paul.
I'll tell you what, that was great. Good stop by the Tasman team. And here's some good news. They say now that they miscalled the 76 mile an hour speed limit violation. Zanardi did not violate the speed limit. They're going to let him alone. How come I can't talk that kind of thing out of state police?
I don't know why that never worked for me when I was driving either. They seem to always throw those penalties on me. My excuse was we didn't have that button in that time.
So Greg Moore picks up the lead of the race, and Bobby Rahal is right behind him. Moore has not yet made his stop, and then is Fernandez, then Rahal behind.
But does that mean that Fernandez has picked up the spot on Rahal? Because he was just behind him before they made their pit stop.
Theoretically, that's what's happening.
So that will
that was a blistering stop by Fernandez.
But it was only 0.7 of a 7/10 of a second faster than Rahal.
Well, while they still show Greg Moore as the leader, and he has yet to make a stop, the focus is going to be on Fernandez Rahal. And by the way, Zanardi, who's in fourth right now, going to be right there. So as we watch Greg Moore on what should be a stop for his Mercedes-powered car, we're talking about the button that keeps you under the speed limit. Jack Arute, what's that all about?
Well, Paul, let's show you. On each steering wheel, there's a red button. You see this button right here? Now, what that does is go back to the engine management area, and when it is depressed, it will make sure that the car does not go beyond the 60 mile an hour speed limit. But here's part of the problem. Normally, it's on the right-hand side. You can put your finger on the button, but when you've got to shift, you got to take your finger off the button. That's oftentimes what accounts for that big spike in speed sometimes. You can't keep your finger on the button the whole time.
Look at Zanardi as he works on Bobby Rahal now. And this, of course, is critical because it would mean the lead eventually, as Fernandez should assume the lead as soon as Greg Moore comes in. And then it will be a very tight battle, Fernandez, Rahal, and Zanardi. Now, here's a further update on that radar situation. What's happening?
Zanardi seemed like he got in there late. You see how much ground he lost? He came out very wide in turn one. I think he must have just gone in too deep, got it locked up or something along those lines.
All right, the explanation on the radar gun is that the one that got him at 76 is not the official one. It's an advisory radar gun that tells the drivers what speed they're at. And the difference is positioning. One of them catches them right on the entrance to the pits and tells the drivers about where they are so they can make a judgment, getting it slowed down before they get to the speed limit line. So that explains how one had him at one speed and another at a legal speed. It works out in the favor of Zanardi.
Also, it's the driver's job to figure out where he wants to put those switches in the car. Everybody's got them a little bit different. They're not all exactly where they are on. We saw on I think it was Gilles de Ferran's car. They're not always in the exact same spot. So you got to be able to do all those things when you come into the pits. It's your job to fix it.
Well, Greg Moore now closing up behind the entire Walker Racing team, which is Scott Goodyear and Robbie Gordon. Michael Andretti has come into the pits. And I'll tell you what, Moore carried this car on fuel further than the rest of the field on the first stop. He is doing it once again, now 71 laps deep in the race with no stop, or without the second stop. Mercedes in Greg Moore's car stretches its legs, and when he pits, Fernandez, Rahal, and Zanardi should start a great battle for the lead.
And Greg Moore, despite not having made his second pit stop, is really motoring on now. He's opened the gap of over 11 seconds. There's 22 still on the circuit. Out are Roberto Molino, Ozal, Richie Hearn, Parker Johnson, Pachuita, and Juan Fangio, the second. They're all out of the event and effectively out of challenging for championship points. Gilles de Ferran, he had an incident on the very first lap. Alonso Jr., who was in second place in the championship, he's now in 16th place. Jimmy Vasser is currently lying in 5th. Vasser, I think, to make his second stop yet. But it's Greg Moore who's yet to make his second stop, in the lead from Adrian Fernandez by about 11 seconds. But the man looking most likely at the moment, Bobby Rahal, a previous winner of this event. And he's in the 3rd spot ahead of Alex Zanardi. And certainly controversy there about whether it was the official or whether it was the unofficial radar gun. But it looked like he was at 76 and a black flag and effectively out of it, and suddenly he's back in it again. I can tell you that Mark Blundell is in 12th. And Blundell now just having made his pit stop a few moments ago. One of the target cars. Jimmy Vasser. Vasser had 102 points before the start of this one. Paul Tracy now running in 6th place with that pit stop of Jimmy Vasser. 73 laps completed, 74 now completed by Greg Moore. When is he going to make his stop? Just 21 laps remaining. And for those exciting laps still to come, let's go back to ex-racer Danny Sullivan and Paul Page.
Rahal's in 3rd.
Sits currently in 8th place, and there he is. You're on board with him as he drops through. Greg Moore has still not come into the pits to refuel. He's completed 74 laps, and he just went by the pit road again, so they're getting amazing fuel mileage out of that Mercedes. Nothing changes as we look down from the Honda Helicam relative Fernandez, Rahal, Zanardi, and Christian Fittipaldi, who sits in 5th place. Once Greg Moore comes in, though, he is now 10.5 seconds ahead of second place Fernandez of a pad to come back out in the lead, but definitely if they have a good clean stop, enough to come out in the battle, and the fact that he's carrying the fuel so long should give him a short stop.
Well, it should, because they won't need as much, but we've seen all season long where he's gone incredibly long. Oh, there's a target. Is that Zanardi getting by Bobby Rahal? He was right behind him, it looks like it.
Without getting a glimpse of the rollover bar, it's so hard to tell. But it makes sense that it would be.
I think so, especially with Vassar just having made a stop. Yes, it is. It was Zanardi going by Bobby Rahal for second spot.
So that could be critical to the finish as well, as moving actually into third spot. But it'll become second as soon as this man makes his stop. But he doesn't seem like he's intent on stopping at all. Now I'm beginning to wonder, how far can he go? His first stop was on lap 38.
Well, all season long he's gotten great fuel mileage, but what'll happen here, he's looking for he'd love to have that yellow. The longer you can go, look at that. I think his tires are probably going off a little bit there. Of course, when you lock it up that heavily, it will have gone off. He might call and say, hey, look, my tires are going down. I need to come in. I still do not see anybody out in his pit, out in the pit lane, getting ready for him, so he might go one more lap.
Yeah, that cost him a second as he came around that first turn and got out. With the pace laps, Moore went 41 laps on that first tank of fuel. So he shouldn't have to pit until lap 80, Jackaroo.
And that's exactly what they're trying to do. They want to run this string out as far as they can. Now it's come up. The team goes over the wall. He will come in this time. Now here's the thinking behind it. Not having to take on a full load of fuel. And Danny, you know, it depends on how you've got your car set up. If you want to run with a heavy load or a light load, lighter at the end, it ought to help. It ought to help him to be able to run a little bit better as he tries desperately to seek his first win, Danny.
Well, Jack, also, one thing, he'll have a quicker stop because that fuel's not as much in the tank right now. The gravity won't force it out as fast. He'll be able to make a quicker stop to get that light load of fuel.
And he'll be able to do a time stop because he won't have to wait for it to go up through the vent.
All right, so we wait for Greg Moore to make his stop, and when he does, this man, Adrian Fernandez, who has not won in the Indy car, should take over. Well, you can see as you look at the front of that Ducati car that he's been in the fight all day. Look how dark the rear wing is and how much rubber's built up on the leading edge of the front wings. Here comes Greg Moore, and Jackaroo waits for him.
And it never ceases to amaze me how you will time the amount of fuel necessary for Greg Moore. It's a simple black wicker bill that a man on one side of the wall uses. He will tap the fuel man in the back when he thinks they've taken enough. They do. It's a quick stop. He puts it back in gear. 10.5 seconds and he's off and away.
And where does he rejoin? That's going to be the critical element. That's Fernandez. He's over on the backside with Zanardi over on him. And so Fernandez picks up the lead of the race. And Zanardi moves to second. Rahal to third. Moore should come out in fourth place. And Paul Tracy in fifth. And by the way, Jimmy Vassar has been involved in a good battle past couple of laps with Christian Fittipaldi while we were keeping close watch on Greg Moore, the leader of the race. And this was part of their battle just a few moments ago. Well, hello, Christian. I'm here.
Jimmy made a smart move there, though. He didn't force it. Christian chopped him, I thought, a little bit too much there, but Jimmy got away with it. He was thinking points right there. He didn't want to knock that front wheel off of the wing.
So Adrian Fernandez picks up the lead of the race, but there is a very hungry Alex Zanardi 2 seconds back. We'll be back after these messages and a word from our ABC stations.
So Adrian Fernandez with the lead, some 16 laps remaining in Toronto, and it really is developing into quite a battle. Alex Zanardi, who went past Bobby Rahal before, in second place. Zanardi started on the front row, but he's now having to chase after Fernandez. Paul Tracy in fourth spot. Greg Moore who just very recently pitted very late, but the lighter fuel load may really help him. And Jimmy Vasser and Christian Fittipaldi still engaging in that battle for what is 7th and 8th place at the moment. Brian Herter up into 6th place. News of Mark Blundell in 12th position. Michael Andretti trying to fight his way back through the field, but he's a lap down after flat spotting his tyres. Michael Andretti in 13th place. News of Alonso Jr. in 16th. But there's the Pennzoil car, and that's now coming in for its 3rd stop. So Gilles de Ferran effectively out of any championship points. His problem on the very first lap came in without a nose. Perhaps development work that can be done. He'd be bitterly disappointed, having of recent times really closed the gap on Jimmy Vasser. 55 points to Gilles Ferran in the last 4 events that moved him into 3rd place in the championship battle. Zanardi going through there, still after Adrian Fernandez. We've now got some 14 laps remaining. Firestone car of Scott Pruitt. Sloven got that one out of the way. Sanveri Ribeiro, who earlier had a dreadful pit stop, he's had an even longer one now. The pole position man, effectively out of the race. But this man hasn't won. And he's 14 laps from the checkered flag. Adrian Fernandez, the Mexican, being chased by Alex Zanardi. I looked at it earlier that Bobby Rahal could be the man to grasp his hands on the trophy. And he won that some years ago, back in '86, here in Toronto. And we can rejoin Paul and Danny again at trackside. Molson Indy. Zanardi is closing down as best he can, and there may be a problem with Fernandez. Gary?
Well, it could be good news for Alex Zanardi. We just talked with Steve Horn. He's the owner of the Tasman team. He's been pacing down here. He said, what are your concerns? He said, well, Adrian's a little concerned about his brakes. Now, Danny, you've been a driver. You correspond with team owners through races. What does a little bit of concern about brakes mean to you?
Well, that obviously means that he's radioed in and said, I've got some kind of a brake problem, which I would suspect is a hot brake pedal. You know, it's going down to the floor, and he's having to pump it a little bit. That's a big concern when you got somebody like Zanardi that close behind you.
Oh, Bobby Rahal is not real happy with the Farron. You see him point as he came up behind him. Rahal is in 3rd place trying to catch Zanardi, and right now the Farron running off the pace back in 20th and 4 laps behind the leader is very definitely a problem for Rahal. But look at the Farron pull away there.
Yeah, but if he got him in 1st place, especially when Bobby's racing for a spot and a critical, it could end up being the lead or 2nd place. You don't want to lose ground in traffic to somebody who's that far down, even if they're fast.
Well, Tracy is 4th behind Rahal, but not anywhere near him right now. Michael, problem, slows, raises his hand to tell everybody behind him that he is slowing, and the report originally was that the header may be gone. We'll listen to the radio.
I don't know if Michael just stopped there to let the traffic go by, but he looks like he's not moving at all.
I'll tell you what, with 84 laps complete, moving down in the final 10 laps of the race, I would be thinking about a full course yellow with Michael sitting there.
That spot is definite because it's going to be full course. I see the flags are going out right now.
So with a full course yellow, Michael in probably the most precarious possible position on the race course on the entry to turn 3 where all the passing occurs. they're going to go and snatch him off the course. That'll bunch up all of these guys, and then it will be a sprint to the finish.
So the full course yellow to try and get Michael Andretti's car into a place of safety. And some 10 laps remaining. Adrian Fernandez still with the lead then. Alex Zanardi all over him like a rash. Bobby Rahal not too far behind. Paul Tracy and Greg Moore, who might well get into the equation later on with that lighter fuel load from that very late pit stop. Jimmy Vasser, the championship leader, and he will still be the championship leader at the end of today. Although Al Unser Jr. is moving into the minor points very shortly. If he makes up one more place, he'll get just 1 point, but that certainly won't put him past Jimmy Vasser, even if Jimmy Vasser didn't finish, because Al Unser Jr. is in 13th, and Michael Andretti then out of it. And they'll get that car on the circuit as soon as they possibly can, but in the meantime, it's Linus Stern, the two yellows out, and Fernandez, of course, keeping his lead over this time. Gilles de Ferran 4 laps down. And it's still showing that Andre Ribeiro is in the race, but he's back in the lowly 18th place. And when Andretti came to retirement, it was 17th. So the 11th race in this Indy World Series have 9 laps to go. And don't forget that July the 28th, the Michigan 500 as unceremoniously on the end of a rope. Michael Andretti leaves the circuit of which he has been king. 4 times he's won here previously. Adrian Fernandez has not won yet. And we are going back now with the yellow flags clearing to Paul and Danny.
IndyCar safety team pulling Michael Andretti off of the course. No power on that car. He is out for the day. Now remember, let's take a look at these point standings. We were talking right at the beginning of this race about how they looked and how tight the battle was. Now let's take a look at the points right now. Well, Vasser still ends up as the leader in points. That's assuming if the race were to finish right at this second. It's not going to. But Alex Zanardi takes a jump into the top 6. Well, everything else up there remains pretty much the same, but by the same token, look how tight.
It bunches him up awful good, and the run that Zanardi's had, he could be a factor.
Yeah, they're playing very careful strategy in the Ganassi pits, aren't they, Jack?
Well, Chip Ganassi is the man on the radio with Alex Zanardi. He's waiting for Zanardi to come by.
Green.
Next lap we will be green is what they're saying. Now, Chip, you thought that there was a fuel problem with the leader car with Fernandez, and you were trying to chase him down. That all goes away now.
It does, Jack. I'd say we're a little off target right now where we want to be. We thought we'd be in the lead right now, but I think he won't have any problem passing Fernandez. We got plenty of laps.
That's a lot of bravado. What makes you think you can do that?
I got a great driver.
Gary? Steve Horn down here on the radio to his driver, checking with his crew, talking to him. We're going to see if we can get a word with him. He watches them file by us here on the front straightaway. Steve, how concerned are you about this brake problem?
Well, he really hasn't said too much about it. At the beginning, he was a little concerned about it, but, we told him to save him a little bit, and he seems to be doing okay now.
Does this yellow help you in that scenario?
I think it does. Any yellow helps, doesn't it? It gives us all a breather.
How nervous are you?
I'm not nervous. I think Adrian can do this, and we'll see.
Looking for his first career IndyCar win, Adrian Fernandez.
So now, under the new policy of the IndyCars, they will put all of the leaders in order on the course. There they've done it, as a matter of fact. So they're all bunched up.
With not a lot of laps to go, this can be very, very exciting. And it's going to be unbelievable because look where Vasser's back there. He wants to score some more points. He's already been chopped once pretty hard by Christian. Bobby Rahal, by the way, has a couple of cars in the top 6 up there because Brian Hurd is right behind Greg Moore, and we need a good clean start, but everybody's going to be going for it with 9 laps to go.
And the thing to watch for, of course, the key corner is that turn 3, and turn 1 has been a place that they have been able to get by. Certainly turn 1 is critical in setting up your run, so you can go down through 2, which is just a slight bend that's part of Lakeshore Drive, and then when you make the right-hander off Lakeshore, that's the key.
That's right, and I stand corrected. When they go by, there will then be 8 laps to go.
Right. I'll tell you what, this track always seems to produce interesting racing. It's done it once again.
And now, of course, they're going to come by with a green and 1. It'll be 7 laps when they actually take the green.
Yeah, they're telling them to make sure they're in that lined up order. That's what that signal is from Vince Quintal, the chief starter of IndyCar. Jack Arute?
Danny Sullivan, I've got a question for you. Nobody will give me the answer down here in the Ganassi pit, but for the last couple of races on restarts, they always radio to Alex Zanardi, make sure you use the button on the restart. What button are they talking about? You're an old driver. Was there a trick there on the dash somewhere?
Well, Jack, of course, I've only been out of it about 9 months, but I didn't have any trick button. I do not know what they're talking about there.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll find out before we get to Michigan what's the story about this button.
Yeah,
if it
I
was
have
20 years ago, I'd be really worried about that button. I'd be leaning in there trying to find out exactly what that's doing.
20 years ago, that might have been nitrous oxide in there to give a little extra boost, but I don't know, because you just want to be in the right gear, make sure everybody will have their fuel turned up now to 100%. The fuel mixture will be at 100%. This is going to be flat out everything you can do for 7 laps.
And I want to emphasize, we're not suggesting anything untoward with the Ganassi team.
Absolutely not.
Because Chip's a really big guy and probably can hit really hard. Adrian Fernandez, Zanardi, Bobby Rahal, they will go green as they come onto the pit straight once again. The crews, with some anticipation, look up to see how the cars are going to come off the corner. PPG pace car making the final couple of turns on the course.
PPG pace car's lights are out. That's how the drivers know for sure that it's going green.
And the pace picks up as Fernandez anticipates the green flag. And here we go, 6 laps to go. Rahal tries to move on Zanardi.
See everybody sliding out there? They don't have a lot of temperature in those back tires. They've been trying to warm them up and stay off of the marbles.
I thought for a moment that either Christian or Vassar had gotten way out. Rahal tries to make a move again on Zanardi. Zanardi's trying to make his move on Fernandez. No contest in the first pass through turn 3.
That's the best thing that could have happened to Fernandez, is Bobby Rahal being all over Zanardi.
Paul Tracy and Greg Moore both lined up on Rahal, and they won a round. Boy, look at Tracy and Rahal. And Moore closes on Tracy again.
Well, we got it a little bit out, lost a little ground there. Did you see the car move around? He quickly recovered, though.
A glimpse of the red car occasionally, as we look down with 5 laps to go, is, of course, Zanardi. 9/10 of a second ahead. There he is, Fernandez. Then Zanardi. Here comes Moore. And he gets around Paul Tracy coming down the inside.
Good, clean pass there.
Greg Moore to 4th. Moore has led today. Of course, the crowd is Canadian. He's Canadian. So is Tracy, for that matter. So their focus is back here in this battle for 4th, but nothing's changed at the front. In fact, if anything, Fernandez has been able to pull away. So were the brakes a smokescreen?
I don't really think so, but I think he didn't have as big a problem as they thought. He was probably just being cautious, radioed in. But those laps helped him cool everything down. He got away. Now he can focus on just driving as smooth as possible, because he's got a nice lead over Zanardi with only 4 laps to go.
They flash across the line. Again, our thanks to our colleagues at CBC Television for the coverage here today as they continue to watch this battle. Rahal, Moore, Tracy. 3-way battle for 3rd place. There's Fernandez. There's 2nd place Zanardi. And I think Rahal's catching him.
I think that whole group is, and I think more is Petch and Rahal. Pulled away a little from Paul Tracy.
They're back bottled up again as they pass through turn 3. Moving down the closing moments of this run in the Molson Indy at Exhibition Place in Toronto. Whoa! Big time collision.
Whose car is that? The back of that car up against the wall.
Ribeiro's in there. Johansson is in there. It's the other car that we really want to know about.
Wait a minute. Who's that?
Way up the line. And we have a very serious accident. Very serious accident. And the course is blocked. I don't know how they're going to get cars.
Whoa, watch this. Watch this. This car's really got to slow down. He didn't realize it was that block. They have got to stop this.
And that's Jeff Krosnoff over close to the wall, the one they're working over. As Steve Alvey heads down, one of the doctors with the IndyCar safety team, and Eddie Lawson tries to work his way through. So now, the closing laps, we have a serious accident here. 91 laps are complete. It breaks off the battle at the front of the field. We'll be back.
And Jeff Krosnoff it is with the MCI Reynard Toyota. The marshals to him very quickly indeed, and of course the course car out there on the track. We'll update you with that situation, but look at that car. I mean, that is what we do not want to see. 16, Stefan Johansson, former Formula 1 driver, going down the escape road there. But with just 3 laps remaining, it's just a slow parade of cars here that go through in Toronto, Ontario. It's been an action-packed race so far. And it looks like it's going to be a red flag. And that will mean that Fernandez will have his first ever victory. But we have no confirmation yet of the red flag. An unfortunate way for him to gain it, but the Mexican was 2 seconds ahead. He was benefiting from the fact there was a battle going on behind between Alex Zanardi and Bobby Rahal. The paramedics there, and a lot of people in the stand probably really unaware of the drama that's unfolding in front of our cameras here. American driver Jeff Krosnoff with the Reynard Toyota catapulted through the air. It's fast, it's furious, and when the car goes out of control after touching there was not a lot that he could do after that. Very careful indeed. How they take him from the car, how they move him. There's Mario Andretti. That the man who could be the winner. But let's get back to Danny Sullivan and Paul Page.
Well, with this rather serious accident over at turn 3, they have just displayed on the front stretch the red and checkered flag. Here is the replay. Eddie Lawson into Krosnoff.
No, that is actually Stefan Johansson there.
Johansson.
And he was moving out to pass another car, which looked like it was Gilles de Ferran. I don't think he saw Krosnoff. He couldn't have seen him. And he moved over. Boy, he got up into that fence. That's his rear end of his car that ended up in front of Ribeiro.
They worked with Jeff Krosnoff still in what's left of the car, and I have not seen that much damage to an Indy car in a very long time. And what this does is gives the race to Fernandez. Zanardi in second place. It has been flagged 2 laps early at the 93rd lap. So Adrian Fernandez wins his first race in IndyCar on his first lead since Vancouver in '94. And so Adrian Fernandez, under a bit of a cloud, takes the win here, and they have stopped the cars well down the course while they make an attempt to service as best they can the situation involving Jeff Krosnoff. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, mixed emotions in this time of urgency for our driver on course, but here's Steve Horn on the jubilation side. You've brought another young man to his first IndyCar win. What are you feeling right now?
Well, I'm pleased for Adrian. I think a lot of people said he couldn't win. He wasn't competitive. I think we've proven that this year, that this is another young star on the rise. As you say, I hope there's no major problems out there. But it was a great, tough race all the way, and a credit to the team, and particularly Firestone. We had some tremendous tyres today.
Congratulations, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Paul?
So Steve Horn worried, as we all are, about the condition of Jeff Krosnoff. And Adrian Fernandez climbs out and begins a celebration, somewhat tainted because of this accident and the early stoppage of the race, breaking off what could have been a terrific battle to the finish. Alex Zanardi unofficially in second, Bobby Rahal third, Greg Moore fourth, Paul Tracy in fifth, followed by Brian Herta, Christian Fittipaldi, Jimmy Vasser, Robbie Gordon, and Scott Pruitt. We'll be back.
Well, we're still waiting now for more information as to that unfortunate, untimely accident with just 2 laps remaining. I can tell you that looks like it means that Mark Blundell finishes in 11th place. Jimmy Vasser, the championship leader of the PBG IndyCar World Series, will score 8th place points, and that means he'll get 5. And that'll take him to a total of 107. And the nearest rivals that he had before today, Al Unser Jr. Well, Unser Jr. doesn't get any points, so he remains on 92. So that the gap will be some 15 points at the top of the field. Here's that accident again. And the only thing you can say is that there are others fortunate to escape. We've heard of no other injuries, as the American driver Jeff Krosnoff is being attended to at trackside. So if you've just joined us, the car was into several different parts. He's still sitting inside the hardened cockpit, and the paramedics working along with him there. Seems almost incidental, but obviously congratulations go out to a man getting his first victory, the Mexican driver Adrian Fernandez, with the TK Quaker State Lola Honda on Firestone tires. But at times like this, at any motorsporting event, well, there's a different taste in your mouth than perhaps the taste of even giving congratulations. Talking of congratulations, a recap, unless you haven't heard, although Villeneuve has flown out by helicopter for a week's holiday after the victory he had in the British Grand Prix. That has got to be an unofficial result, because Benetton lodged their protest formally. The protest was declared to have failed in a statement from the race stewards, but then 3 hours after the race, when that came about, Benetton announced that they would then lodge notice of their intention to appeal against the decision within the next week. So into the courtrooms moves Grand Prix, sadly into hospitalization. Will eventually move Jeff Krosnoff. Well, the team celebrating. Fernandez was leading by 2 seconds at the end of the race. It had been stopped with 8 laps remaining, and well, you can say that he probably would have won it, because those in his wake, Zanardi, Rahal and Moore, were engaged in a battle of their own, and while they were, if you like, holding each other up, it was allowing Adrian Fernandez, who we thought maybe had a brake problem, to be able to put a bit of space between him and the chasing pack. Paul Tracy finishes in 5th place, Brian Herta in 6th place, Christian Fittipaldi in 7th, and the retirements, of course, Michael Andretti went out. Andretti, the master of street circuits, 4 times winner of this Toronto round. Well, it wasn't to be a 5th occasion today. And they're the unofficial results as they stand at the moment. On the top of the pile, delighted young Mexican Adrian Fernandez, his first victory at this level. Then, of course, Alex Zanardi. Then the 1986 Toronto winner, Bobby Rahal. And look at that, at the bottom, Gilles de Ferran, 55 points compiled over the last few rounds, and that got him up to 90, just 12 behind Jimmy Vasser, but not a point to add today. Michael Andretti at one stage looked like he was going to be the master point scorer, but again he fails after flat spotting his tyres and going off at turn 2. It's always difficult at any motorsport event when you know of a serious accident somewhere back out on the track and the red flag as it rightly came out. I mean, you saw the absolute mess that was there from where the car catapulted into the fencing, and I'm hoping that nobody was on the other side of that fencing as well. And the car's all there on the start of the, or the end of the start and finish straight almost there. And maybe it's not even really totally dawned on Adrian Fernandez yet that he's got his first victory. Lola Honda on Firestone tyres then. Take it after some 93 of the scheduled 95 laps. I suppose with it almost being a sprint at the finish, it was going to be bound to be fraught at the end. But we hope we'll be able to bring you better news in the news. So the Maple Leaf flag flies high. We thank our commentators Danny Sullivan and Paul Page out there in Toronto. My name's Tony Delahunty. I know that in Eurosport news later on, we hope to bring you the situation as far as Jeff Krosnov is concerned. But the winner and his first victory, Adrian Fernandez, and he wins, maybe the first of many. Good night.
The IndyCar World Series with Husqvarna Forest and Garden Products. Firestone, the science of safety.